Breast cancer affects millions of women in the United States as the second leading cause of cancer-related deaths. Black women are especially at risk of developing and dying from breast cancer compared to women of other races. Early detection can improve treatment outcomes and save lives. Mammograms are a powerful tool in the detection and fight against breast cancer. A mammogram is a quick X-ray that can identify abnormalities in the breasts long before they can be physically felt. Every woman aged 40 years and older is entitled to a free mammogram under the Affordable Care Act every year. Make mammograms a priority in your healthcare routine. It's a small step that can have a huge impact on your health. Let's work together to empower women.
Good morning, everyone. And of course, good morning to my team. Thank you all for being here. And happy National Consumer Protection Week. It's actually a fitting week to make this announcement related to junk fees. But want to thank all those across the Commonwealth and frankly across the country for everything they do to protect consumers. The number one issue facing Massachusetts residents is affordability. Everything today is too expensive. Housing, groceries, utility bills, childcare, education, and so much more. Our families, including those who are working 2 or 3 jobs, are one unexpected or one unanticipated emergency from potential financial collapse. On top of rising costs, we see businesses looking to scam and cheat our consumers out of their hard-earned dollars through deceptive or unfair practices. One of them being, of course, the infamous practice known as junk fees. That's why today I am extremely proud to release regulations making it crystal clear that hidden or surprise junk fees and related billing practices violate our state consumer protection laws. We've all experienced junk fees in one way or another. Of course, when we're looking to book a hotel room, shopping online, buying concert tickets to see my favorite Beyonce or Taylor Swift, or renting a car, or so many other transactions. They're pesky, hidden, or surprise fees that appear towards the end of a transaction. Junk fees raise the price of a product or service beyond what is presented at the onset, sometimes considerably. Many times, junk fees only come up after you've put in your personal billing information. That way, the business has reeled you in, and you're more likely to make a profit, or they're more likely to make a profit. In some instances, unbeknownst to the customer, these fees may actually be optional or waivable. So in some cases, junk fees turn out to be not only costly, but also completely unnecessary. Junk fees also pop up in trial offers and subscriptions. When a consumer is charged for a product or a service on a recurring basis, often with automatic renewals. I'm talking about, of course, that app you once downloaded with a 7-day free trial, forgot about it after inputting your credit card information, and then you're charged for it every month without realizing it. It's happened to all of us, and of course, it's not just phone apps. We're seeing subscriptions and automatic renewals used increasingly across the board. They're in gym memberships, home security services, meal kits, entertainment, and more. They often create unwanted charges that, when added up, can be extremely costly for our residents and consumers. Some businesses have purposely made it harder for consumers to cancel or opt out of trial offers, automatic renewals, and recurring charges. And worse yet, sometimes businesses will raise the prices of these recurring charges or automatically impose various unauthorized fees. But not anymore. Under our new regulations, our goal is to handle that particular issue for our consumers. These regulations will go into effect in September 2025, giving businesses adequate time to come into compliance. They put the power back into the hands of our consumers, helping them to avoid unnecessary and unwanted costs and keeping their hard-earned money in their pockets. They bolster transparency by requiring businesses to be more upfront about the total cost of a product or a service. And they will level the playing field for other businesses by making sure that all competitors are upfront about their pricing. These nation-leading regulations will apply broadly across most industries, including the retail and housing market, where a lot of these issues exist. Today, we're also releasing guidance for our businesses. We want to work with them as they work to comply with these new regulations and, of course, answer any questions they may have. These regulations build on our office's mission to expand economic opportunity for all of our residents, helping consumers keep more money in their pockets and advance their wealth and financial well-being, and helping to protect our people from being tricked or coerced into paying more for goods and services, particularly as we have a federal administration stepping away from the issues of affordability and stepping away from consumer protection. Later this week, in recognition of National Consumer Protection Week, which of course we will absolutely celebrate, my office will also release our annual Consumer Advocacy Report. This report highlights our various enforcement, advocacy, and outreach efforts to protect consumers over the past year. Last year, we recovered over $10 million for consumers impacted by various unlawful business practices and provided assistance to over 24,000 consumers on issues related to healthcare, auto sales, scams, landlord-tenant issues, and so much more. I want to thank my entire Consumer Protection Division. I'm not going to name each one because they're all right back there and some cannot be. But you know who you are. I am grateful to each and every one of you for working so hard on these issues. I'm grateful also to my Grants Division, P&G, Lisa. There's only one, so I'm naming Lisa. But thank you all for the hard work that you continue to do on these issues and so much more. My team cares deeply about consumer protection, but most importantly, serving the constituents in the Commonwealth. They work hard, they work overtime, and often on weekends to get the job done, and I'm extremely grateful to them. I also, of course, want to thank Ariel Nelson, the senior attorney at the National Consumer Law Center, who offer up a few remarks. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Thank you, Attorney General Campbell, for inviting me to be a part of this exciting announcement. Like Attorney General Campbell said, my name is Ariel Nelson. I'm a senior attorney at the National Consumer Law Center, headquartered here in Boston. Unexpected and confusing junk fees have proliferated across the economy, costing families at least tens of billions of dollars each year. These fees obscure the true price of goods and services, prevent comparison shopping, and make a profit off of gotchas. At this point, most of us have been hit with junk fees. Sometimes we just resign ourselves to paying the shocking fees that don't show up until the very end of a purchase. You've clicked through so many screens that by the time you get to the end, you've invested so much time that you just throw up your hands and complete the transaction, even though you have to pay more than you expected. Put simply, junk fees harm everyone and prevent a fair marketplace for consumers and honest businesses. For many people, these surprise junk fees are much more than an annoyance. They are unaffordable and can cause severe, lasting harm. This morning, I want to highlight that renters struggling to find safe and decent housing within their budget are some of the hardest hit by junk fees. A dizzying array of unavoidable fees to secure and maintain rental housing contributes to sky-high rent prices and housing instability. These fees, like mysterious administrative fees and valet trash fees, can add hundreds of dollars per month to the rent. They compound the burden already placed on rental households, which make up about 38% of Massachusetts residents, and 51% of Massachusetts residents spent more than 30% of their income on rent in 2024. Housing providers frequently fail to disclose the many fees renters must pay up front. That means renters may not know the actual amount they'll owe each month until they begin the lease signing process, at which point they've likely already invested a lot of time into their housing search and paid various fees. On top of that, landlords may fail to accurately and adequately explain the nature and purpose of certain fees. Instead, renters may see vague terms like convenience fee or insurance fee. Sometimes it's also apparent that the amount of the fee far exceeds the cost that the landlord incurs for providing the service. The failure to provide accurate and understandable pricing information threatens renters' ability to effectively budget and to keep a roof over their heads. Surprise junk fees that renters can't afford also jeopardize access to future housing and financial stability. Junk fees can become alleged rental debts that lead to dunning by debt collectors, and negative marks on credit reports that lead to automatic rejections by landlords down the road. As Attorney General Campbell explained, these regulations require upfront transparency in pricing and prohibit misrepresentation of the nature and purpose of fees. They also require disclosure that some fees are optional and how to actually avoid them. The guidance also suggests that disclosure of the nature or purpose of the fee needs to be reasonably reflective of the cost the seller incurs. We applaud and thank Attorney General Campbell and her team for finalizing these regulations. These regulations, along with the Attorney General's enforcement of them, are a critical step towards protecting consumers from predatory junk fees. And now, with gratitude for her leadership in the fight against junk fees, I'll turn it back over to Attorney General Campbell.
Thank you. And now we have Jen from the AARP. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Good morning. We applaud at AARP Massachusetts Attorney General Campbell and her team for bringing forth these regulations to protect consumers. We already have here in Massachusetts some of the toughest consumer protection laws in the country. And this is an extremely important issue for not only the legislature in passing laws, but of course in our Attorney General and her willingness to step forward with smart regulations to protect all of us. AARP Massachusetts supports these regulations for more than 60 years. AARP has been a wise friend and fierce defender of our constituency, but for the people in Massachusetts and the United States. We know 85% of Americans have experienced a hidden or unexpected fee for a service in the previous 2 years. But they hit those on fixed and modest incomes, like older adults, even harder. These fees can really add up without providing any real benefit. That's why it's so important for consumers to have all the information up front to make informed decisions about prices and terms of service. We are especially pleased to see that these changes include clear definitions of unfair and deceptive practices in automatically recurring charges and fees and trial offers. By clearly outlining all potential costs and providing easy to understand cancellation information, these regulations help everyone in Massachusetts make informed choices. In a fair and lively marketplace, older adults can pick the options that best suit their needs at a fair price. Again, thank you to Attorney General Campbell and your team for keeping transparency and information forefront for consumers in Massachusetts and in particular older adults. Thank you.
I'm happy to take some questions now. Thank you, everybody.
So there are 3 or 4 regulations that are being discussed.
Say that again. Was that a question or a comment?
Yeah, part 1. So I'm reading maybe 3 or 4 regulations that are being discussed today.
So we're only talking about one set of regulations having to do with these junk fees and hidden fees. And within it, we talk about where they show up, not only in the context of a transaction, say, when going to buy a concert ticket or in the housing industry, but also when it comes to subscriptions and automatic renewals, which is also a transaction that we see where they show up. So we are offering clarification and also guidance to employers.
Okay, and in regards to that clarification, up until September 2nd, that's when it'll go into effect. So in that time in between, how does the office reach out to, say, businesses, to companies, and to landlords?
So frankly, in the same way we have. So whether it's through our Consumer Protection Division or other parts of the office that are front-facing. We have consumers, we have businesses that reach out all the time. So even in developing these regulations, we received over 100 comments, including from many businesses that would be affected by these. We made changes and tweaked the regulations as appropriate to respond to their concerns, the same with consumers. So that same infrastructure exists to receive feedback and, of course, to answer questions before their implementation date in September of this year.
Attorney General,
Thank you.
Obviously, the fees are legal. How do you figure out, as a consumer, if you've actually been victimized by a bogus fee or a junk fee that's, doesn't meet your new expectations?
So in addition to guidance that we're putting out, we will, over the course of these 6 months, as employers are gearing up to adjust their infrastructure to come into compliance, we will do the same in terms of putting out information, FAQs, making sure consumers have a sense of what the legalese means for them. But we encourage folks to always reach out to our office, whether on social media, at Mass AGO, our website, our consumer hotlines, as we get this off the ground. And I want to be clear, we are giving a longer time period in terms of the effective date of these regulations because we don't want to surprise anybody. We actually want to work with businesses. We want to work with those who are doing a great job and those maybe not so much in order to ensure there's a level playing field and no consumer is getting these surprise charges.
But the thing that you're trying to make is so that people have to know they're paying it. Like if there's a fee there, you have to know when you get to the final transaction.
Oh, absolutely. And so that information will be coming out from our office, but even then, consumers will see through the changes that businesses make, whether on their online platforms and other ways, not only what they're paying for at the outset, what these fees may be, a better description of them. So this overall push for greater transparency will help the consumer, and they will see that when these go into effect.
So the point of it is to get businesses to change on their own rather than have consumers bring complaints to your office.
That is well said and well described. So the goal is we see right now consumers having to not only navigate all types of transactions where, say, for example, you go to purchase a ticket and at the outset it says it's $100. At the end, you're paying maybe $200 for a ticket because of these hidden fees and these hidden junk fees. The goal is not to put the onerous, the burden on the consumer, but on the businesses that manage the systems themselves, that know what the fees are, have the descriptions. Sometimes those are available, sometimes they're not, in order for them to be more transparent, to make it clearer to our consumers what they are paying for, to give them the option to proceed with their transaction or to opt out of it, and also to describe whether the fees are waivable or not. So yes, it puts it rightfully on the businesses to do their part, not on the consumer.
You're getting good cooperation from the business?
I would say so far, even during the comment period, kudos to my team again that you see the beautiful people standing in the back that could be up here. This team not only reviewed the comments that came in, and over hundred comments came in writing. They also took meetings from anyone who asked to have a very thoughtful conversation on how these proposed regulations at the time would affect their business model, their service, their delivery of their services and their products. We took all of that into consideration when drafting these final regulations.
When was the last time there was a change to Chapter 93A? This is adding regs to it, I believe. That's not commonly done.
I don't know about a change. I don't know about a change to 93A because we already see that as one of the most progressive and robust consumer protection laws and the strongest in the country. Actually, other AG offices look to us for our consumer protection work and to model their work after us. If anything, we're looking at an existing law and statute and saying, how can we be creative in helping your consumer who is dealing with some type of issue, empower them and also make their lives easier. So in the context of affordability, which we know is the number one issue right now in Massachusetts, this issue of junk fees and hidden fees, which we have all experienced, we said we want to do something about it. These regulations are a response to us doing something about it with the hopes that our consumers get greater transparency and also the money that they earn every day stays in their pockets as they buy services and products, especially our older adults and our elders in the community.
Are there any fees that you've seen during this process that you look at it and can't believe is ludicrous if this was added to? a bill?
Absolutely. I mentioned my girl Beyonce, who I love, and I know there's a lot of Swifties in the office too. So obviously in the context of ticket sales, it comes up quite a bit. And anytime there's a major controversy even publicly on this issue, and the federal government at some point was looking at this, we were of course engaged in that, as we do a lot of work collaboratively with the federal administration, or at least the previous one, on consumer protection issues. In the context of booking a hotel room, other examples come to our office where you start off with one price, and by the end of the transaction, it's higher because of hidden fees or fees that were displayed to you, but you had no description of what they were for, and whether or not they were waivable, and you could opt out.
We'll do last question to Sam right there.
Thank you.
Hi, Sam.
How did you decide what was a junk fee for renters? And can you talk about working with landlords a little bit?
So we do a lot of work now, as you can imagine, with landlords in our recent card report that I just mentioned that will be released. Some of the highest number of complaints that we get in terms of scams or folks feeling like they've been defrauded are in the housing landlord tenant context. There are fees, and we understand that tenants and renters have to pay, and we've done substantial, I'm giving a view to my digital team over here, substantial videos and content on what those fees are. And then this is to address all the other fees that are not mandatory, that are not required in order for someone to actually demonstrate that they have great credit, they're able to pay their rent, and of course, become a tenant for a landlord. So we'll work closely with landlords, as we will all employers and businesses, I should say all businesses, to ensure that there's a fair playing field for everybody.
Thanks, everyone. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And thank you to my fabulous team in the back. Appreciate each and every one of you. Yes, we can clap for them, by the way.
Breast cancer affects millions of women in the United States as the second leading cause of cancer-related deaths. Black women are especially at risk of developing and dying from breast cancer compared to women of other races. Early detection can improve treatment outcomes and save lives. Mammograms are a powerful tool in the detection and fight against breast cancer. A mammogram is a quick X-ray that can identify abnormalities in the breasts long before they can be physically felt. Every woman aged 40 years and older is entitled to a free mammogram under the Affordable Care Act. Every year. Make mammograms a priority in your healthcare routine. It's a small step that can have a huge impact on your health. Let's work together to empower women.